Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from another throwaway 55 pi. AITA. Half my neighbors don't like me, and I genuinely don't think I've deserved it. Moved into a new neighborhood about a year ago with my girlfriend. I am pretty introverted and tend to keep to myself. It's not like the days before the internet when everyone talked to their neighbors constantly. 35M. Neighbor 1. While moving into the house, she, approximately late 40s, early 50s single mom, stood in her front yard and just stared at my dad and I. It was so bizarre. He's friendlier than me and tried to make small talk, and I waved, but she didn't respond at all. Fast forward, her and I did not talk for about 10 months until one day I was putting in a new parking space. I got tired of the single-lane driveway, so just put an extra spot in. I did it nicely too, and even lined it with timber, just listening to music and tamping things down when she finally came out and stared at me again. I said hi, after about 10 minutes of it. "What are you doing with that sod?" she asked. "I'm starting a garden, so I'll compost it," I responded. She then proceeded to ignore what I said and tell me she has some low spots in her yard and directed me where to put it for her. I kept it to myself, but this made me furious. The audacity. I just responded, "I'll let you know if I have any left afterwards," and never talked to her again. Now she will stand at her side of the fence and stare at me in my yard. Neighbor 2 kept giving me the newspaper for free. I don't really want it, but didn't want to offend him, and figured I could just compost it anyway. I learned that this neighbor does nice things for a lot of people on the block, so he can get things from them. For instance, he takes care of one of the neighbor's house's snows, so he can use their garage for storage. Our first snowy day, he asked to use my snowblower. It was brand new, and I didn't know how to use it yet, so I told him I needed some time. He wanted to use it for his driveway and 3 other people's driveways, which seemed like a big ask, but I didn't care and just asked him to come by later. When I've watched a couple videos and figured it out, he never came back and instead had a guy plow it with a truck. I said, "Well, okay then." But then he stopped waving to me and stopped giving me newspaper. He will literally go back in his house to avoid saying hi if he sees me walking my dog. It's not an issue, but it's like, okay, 2 neighbors hate me. Am I doing something wrong here? Was I supposed to bring the snowblower over to his house and knock on his door with it? Neighbor 3. She was very nice when we moved in. A little too nice, really. She brought out a huge box of dog treats and waved us over while on a dog walk one day. Then she asked us 100, increasingly intrusive, questions while giving my dog a treat every minute or so. Where'd we move from? Where do we work? Names. Even asked if we planned to have kids. I wanted to tell her to stop giving my dog treats but didn't want to be rude. The whole time she had a seemingly aggressive dog barking from the garage. It's worth mentioning that my dog is very well trained. She is actually off-leash certified for our state and could easily walk her around the neighborhood off-leash with no issues. But we don't. Some people don't like dogs and get nervous, and I totally it. She does not chase animals. Unfortunately, a while back, she got attacked by another dog at the dog park. Now she can be a little unpredictable if she gets cornered by other dogs. It's not a very common thing, but I stay aware of it. Anyway, the lady actually works at the local grocery store, and whenever we see her, she waves and says hi. Same when we're out and about walking the dog. Well, about a month or so ago, while walking my dog, she accidentally opened the door, and I learned that she actually has 2 large dogs cooped up in her garage when they came charging towards me and my 35-pound dog. She let out these halves-assed, "Oh, hey, come back," and I started yelling, "Please get your dogs, please get your dogs." They ran right up to my leashed dog, and she started growling and backing up, but they got right in her space, and she tried to bite one of them, but missed. Then they both finally ran back to their owner. Finally, the owner just had them come back in the garage and closed the door with her and the dogs inside. No apology, nothing. I didn't say anything but was fuming. My dog was traumatized again. She ran home immediately and has been scared to walk ever since. I have to carry a pocket full of treats and ease her just to walk a few houses down before she realizes and pulls me all the way home. The kicker? She doesn't say hi to us or wave anymore. One night my dog was sniffing her mailbox, and she turned the outside light on and came out just to stare at me. I waved, but no response, just staring back. I seriously don't get it. What am I doing wrong here? Neighbor 4. This happened last week. I was in the military a while back and worked night shift. We were required to wear these reflector belts. You can probably Google image if you're curious. I spent 8 years in the military and never once had a close call. They are very reflective. Never almost hit by a car, a truck, an airplane, nothing. Mind you, this was worn over camouflage. I wear this belt like a sash when I walk my dog at night. Neighbor 4 was pulling into his driveway and quite nearly almost hit me. No blinker, and even after he saw us, he didn't stop and wait. He still pulled into the driveway. It was a seriously stupid move, but I bit my tongue. I had a lot I wanted to say, but I didn't want to be confrontational. Enough of my neighbors hate me already. But then he got out of his truck and said, "I couldn't see you 'cause you're wearing all black," and it set me off. I stopped and said, "You didn't see the reflector belt?" To which he responded, "You're wearing all black." I was wearing a blue sweater and khakis, but it's dark, so everything looks black. My dog's harness has a reflective outline as well. I am, but you didn't see the reflector belt? I repeated. Well, yeah, but under that you're wearing all black, he said. I really wanted to get into it. This guy could have killed or seriously injured me if I was just a few feet further in the walk. But yet again, I bit my tongue. On the tip of my tongue was, "It was also hard to tell you were going to turn since it seems like your blinker doesn't work." But I just said, "Oh, I see," to his all-black comment, and I continued the walk. Yet another sour interaction. Ugh! It's worth pointing out I do have good relationships with some of my neighbors. We still wave at every car in the neighborhood, whether we can tell who it is or not. And one of my neighbors will actually come out of his house and help me with things if he ever sees me working on something. There's another dog walker my dog likes to play with when we see them too. I'm just constantly thinking of that saying, if everyone around you is an maybe you are the and wondering what I'm doing wrong to make so many of my neighbors hate me. OP is not an AH for setting his boundaries. OP's neighbors are AHs for being unreasonable and rude in their actions. OP's reaction is 100% justified to avoid any conflict with his neighbors. So, I would rate OP's neighbors 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from unable_tree_5775. AITA for breaking up with my boyfriend who wanted to stay in the relationship because he was happy. A few weeks ago, I, 14F, decided to break up with my boyfriend, 14M. The relationship lasted for 2 months. We both enjoyed the relationship for the time it lasted. But in the end, it was all too much for me to handle anymore, hence why I broke up with him. Allow me to paint the picture of what the relationship started off like. I went to the same primary school as him, but I left in year 5 due to bullying. In year 5, he also joined the same self-defense school I go to, which my dad owns and is the head instructor of. We took a while to become friends. We started off hating each other. After I left the school, we slowly became closer to each other and became good friends. We held this status until recently, when we found out about how we both felt. The relationship started when he confessed to liking me, and then I admitted to him too. A week after that, we attended a friend's birthday party at a theme park, and we wandered off and called it a date, despite it not really being one. From here, things seemed to get better in the relationship, and it was like I was living in a dream. After that, we began to hold hands, hug, and lay down on each other, and he was my first kiss. But things quickly escalated from kissing to making out, which for my age group is rather full on. I'd also like to mention that he was highly respected by my dad, who had actually gone and hired him to become an assistant instructor to teach young children how to defend themselves. A few of my other friends are also assistant instructors, along with myself. My boyfriend was about 3.5 years experienced, so he knew his stuff. He was well known throughout the gym and was not only a highly respected instructor, but student as well. Now, for me to explain everything. Whilst we were in a happy relationship that we throughout would last a lifetime, it obviously didn't. Soon after we began our relationship, he began giving attitude to my dad and the gym manager, whom I view as an amazing mentor. Our nice messages in the evening ended up with him telling me how much he hated the manager, and he just wished he could talk back because she is really rude. as well as how his training had been robbed from him because my dad continued to partner him up with new kids. Now, the manager can be a little bit bossy at times. But rude? My friends and I can all clarify that she only ever gets mad at people when they have done something wrong. I can clarify that he was quite frequently being partnered up with new kids, that he would spend the lesson teaching them rather than actually training. On another note, which is somewhat related to this, we would both go into the locker room, a confined space with no cameras, due to the fact it would breach privacy, to be intimate with each other, and honestly, just talk. We had been told about 12 times, nicely by the manager, that we shouldn't be going in there for several reasons. Mainly because we're opposite genders, though. Despite her polite warnings, we continued to violate the rule. The 14th time she told us, we actually weren't doing anything, we were just talking. I was brushing my hair and he was on his phone. The manager told him to clean his locker out because he was banned for a month, then told me the same thing. Immediately after being told this, I went straight to the front desk to the manager and my dad to apologize and give my reason for being in the locker room. I made sure to say that the reason didn't justify my actions and that it wouldn't be happening again. They forgave me, but I still took the punishment. My ex, on the other hand, had a bit of a hissy fit about it. We're only 14. What do they think we're doing in there? It's not fair that they just get to punish us like that. Even saying, I think they're trying to set me up to expel me. I attempted to explain to him numerous times why we were banned and the rules of the locker room, as well as the student code of conduct. But despite this, he continued to go on. A few days after this, we were doing a class together, and he said he was feeling a bit upset, to which I asked why, and he said about the locker room, and that he has exams coming up that he needs to study for. I politely tried to tell him about the locker room rules again, and asked if I could do anything to cheer him up, which I kind of feel like I regret now. He said he wanted to kiss, so after the class, I went downstairs with him into the kitchen, where there are no cameras. We kept that up for about 2 more days, and then the instructor team caught on to what was happening, and they all thought he was trying to stalk me. I went home and wrote him a massive apology message, because I felt like it was all my fault, because I was the one who insisted we go into the kitchen, and he was now taking the blame for it. I also thought it was my fault that we were banned from the locker room. To be honest, I still believe it is my fault for all of this. The thought just roams freely in my mind, even after all these weeks. If I had just gotten out of the locker room with him, even just a few seconds before, none of this would have happened. Why did I think going into the kitchen was such a good idea? I still feel really guilty for everything. On that weekend, we had the Saturday classes to attend. In the first class we trained in, my ex approached the manager after being partnered in a group of 3 and told her to partner him up with a group more experienced, to which she allowed. However, he wasn't satisfied. He wanted to partner with his regular training partner, our friend. He asked the manager to put him in another group because it was ludicrously that he had been partnered with a group of people who were underexperienced when everyone knows for a fact they've been students at the school for almost as long as me. I've been in the school for coming up to 10 years now. The manager said he has to learn how to train with different people, with different fighting styles and different sizes, to which he rolled his eyes and continued to train. Later that morning, he tried putting his bags into the locker room because my dad said it was okay and he wasn't using his locker. The manager quickly explained to my dad that he had been banned from the locker room for a month and he had to take the punishment. My dad approached him and told him his bags needed to be outside the locker room, to which my ex actually scoffed at my dad and said, "Fine." After the kids' class, we were due for an instructor training session, but my ex left early and had a hissy fit, so my friend and I stayed for the session alone. The next day, my dad, my sister and I went out. Whilst we were out, I get a message from my ex asking if we were free and if his dad could call my dad about what's been going on. I told him that we were busy and that we'd be home in a couple of hours. After we got home, I didn't want to just ruin my dad's weekend, so I waited a bit to let him know that my ex's dad wanted to speak to him because I wanted him to relax for a bit. I told him maybe an hour after we got home and he got the phone call. I didn't want to be involved in any of it, so I went to my room, put on some headphones, and just listened to music while studying. Soon before long, my dad came into my room and told me he was on the phone with them for an hour and a half. He actually got to speak to my ex about everything and told him about the locker room situation and the kitchen situation. They said everything was going to be fine and they would move on from it all, as it was no longer an issue. I was happy that everything seemed to be fine. My dad was somewhat in a mood that quite a bit of his day was eaten up by talking about issues that had clearly been conveyed, though. The next morning, I got a message from him saying he couldn't train with me that evening because he needed to study, to which I told him it was okay. The manager and my dad viewed this as attitude, though. Afternoon came. We had a kids class. When he arrived, he came to the front desk to sign off his name. The manager greeted him, to which he didn't respond, just a dirty look. He put his bags in the waiting area, to which my dad offered for him to have them behind the counter with the rest of our bags, to which the manager said there was no space and he had to put them in the waiting area, to which he complied. My dad tried to tell the manager to be a bit understanding and that they should let him have his bags either behind the counter or in the locker room, to which he said again that he made the mistake, so he had to take the punishment. My dad didn't say anything else. That evening, after the class in which I trained, the manager pulled me aside and asked what had been going on with my ex. I told her that he thought the punishments we had received weren't fair and that his training had been robbed of him for months. The manager told me to tell him that he can speak to her if he has issued with the punishment we received for our actions, and she provided understanding about his training, saying that she will let the instructor team know and they will attempt to have him partnered with more experienced people more frequently. But what had happened the other day was not acceptable, which I 100% agree with. Here's where things really begin to go downhill. It was Halloween that day. So many of our other friends who would normally be rostered on for the kids class and train the class afterwards were absent. We first had a kids class to attend, I, my ex, and our friend. During the demonstration my dad was giving, there was music blasting in the background. The music is able to be turned off by the tablet, which at the time was right there next to my ex. For about 40 seconds, my dad continued the demonstration with this music blasting over him. My friend and I noticed this. However, we had no control of the tablet, and we realized it was next to my ex about 30 seconds in, and tried to let him know subtly. He finally realized and turned down the volume. After that kids class, my dad was fuming. He called an instructor meeting in the back room and explained to all of us that what happened in the kids class was unacceptable. He specifically referred to my ex, as the tablet was his responsibility at the time, and he instead chose to stare at the floor. He told him that the attitude they had been receiving from him for the past week had been appalling, and it would no longer be tolerated. My dad made it clear to him that he wanted an apology for everything he had done. As mentioned earlier, due to Halloween, everyone was absent, so the class that we trained in was much smaller than usual. My ex got partnered with our friend, his usual training partner, and I was partnered with a new kid. After the class, we all went into the back room. My friend and I repeatedly told my ex, "Please, you have to apologize, you were in the wrong. Please, everything can just go back to normal." My ex didn't say anything, he just left and went to talk to my dad. Turns out he did apologize for not doing anything about the music, and he explained why it happened. My dad told me, however, his exact words about his attitude were, "The attitude I really disagree with." My dad obviously lost it, and went over the fact he had been not only giving him attitude, but the manager and other instructors' attitude, and it wasn't going to be tolerated anymore. My dad's exact words after this were, "Either man up, or the door's there." He came into the back room with his bags, and said goodbye to all of us as usual, giving us a fist bump and saying, "Saya." He never told us what had happened, or what he was planning to do next. My dad told me what had happened between them, and that he seemed to have chosen to leave, but here was still a chance he could come back. My dad also spoke some wise words to me, which is one of the reasons I'm writing this. If I liked a girl back in the day, I would have made sure that their dad loved me. Little did we know, he left and never returned. Judging by his mum's phone call on the weekend to management, he was going to be back in training the next week. Despite this, a few hours after, he emailed my dad confirming that he had decided to leave permanently. I only found this out after my cousin who trains there with his sister messaged him and asked why he wasn't at the class, saying that he isn't usually absent. He responded to saying he left, to which my cousin asked if he'd be coming back, and he said he had no plans on returning. My cousin told me about the messages, which I actually became very upset about. My cousin knew about our relationship, as well as what he had been doing. My other cousin, his sister, messaged me relentlessly, asking if I was okay, and telling me it was all going to be fine, and that he doesn't know what he's done. I called up my best friend who moved states a few years back, and the moment she answered, I started bawling my eyes out to the point I was unable to talk. My sister came in and caught on to what had happened, and explained everything to my best friend. My best friend suggested I message him to tell him about how I feel and that I didn't think we could continue things if this is how things were going to be. He messaged back saying that everything was really fresh and that we should just sleep on it and come to our senses the next day. I'm not sure why, but messaging him and then seeing his response just disgusted me. I felt sick, and I ended up throwing up in the bathroom for 10 or so minutes. My sister hung up the phone with my best friend and said we'd call her back. Turns out my sister ended up calling my ex and knocking some sense into him, telling him that he was in the wrong for showing attitude, not apologizing for it, then leaving the school. He gave some pretty crappy reasoning, not going to lie. He continued to say exams are stressing him out, which I, nor any of my friends or family believe is a valid excuse. Whilst it may explain your actions, it most certainly does not excuse them, is what I told him a few days later. Despite this massive dispute, he somehow convinced me that we should just enjoy each other whilst we have each other, to which I foolishly agreed. The week after he left, I continued to bring up that we shouldn't be together multiple times, and that things won't work if he can't show respect for my dad, the manager, or any of the instructors, but he continued to insist we stay in the relationship. Anywho, exactly a week after I found out he's left for good, I got through to him, but felt horrifically guilty about it. I told him we cannot be in a relationship if he can't respect the people I love and care about, and that I hoped the relationship could work, but I couldn't see a way that it could work if he wasn't willing to fix things. He finally agreed and said that he's sorry. I told him again, he can just apologize, he can come back and we can all have a fresh start, and no grudges will be held against him. To which he just said that the message was very kind, but he isn't changing his stance on this. Now, I actually had a school event that night, and I was meant to lead my year group's dance, so I didn't really have time to be upset about that. And I had a dinner to attend afterwards with my dad, my sister, and the manager. The next day, I called up my cousin and my friend and explained everything that had happened, and I cried on the phone to them both. My cousin got his sister on the phone to come and talk to me too. Both of my cousins heard what I had to say and told me about my ex. That's pissy behavior. You deserve better. If he valued you, or any of us, our entire friend group, his training, his job, he would have stayed. I spent half of the day on the phone to them playing games online, trying to cheer up before studying, because I had an exam block coming up. I'm not sure. I'm really not. It's just that my ex seemed like he didn't want to end the relationship, and he wanted to be in it, and I feel bad for taking that away from him. I still have strong feelings towards him, but I'm not sure if he feels the same way, as I've been no contact with him for a few weeks now. I know it would be wrong for me to go scurrying back to him after what's happened. I just don't know if what I did was right. I know, we were probably too young to even be in a relationship, and I remember my dad's words from a few months back that I needed to wait until I graduated high school to start dating, and I completely ignored it. I should have just listened to my dad, because look at this situation now. I also suppose the entire thing just added on to other feelings, as my parents are getting a divorce and it's starting to get pretty ugly. That story is for another time though. I also had a few other things going on which I won't mention right now, but my ex knew about them all, and I feel like he kind of abandoned me when I needed him most. I still feel guilty that I took away something from him that he seemed to want, and he made it seem like he was happy, so… AITA? OP is not an AH for breaking up with her toxic boyfriend. Her boyfriend is an AH for being disrespectful towards OP's family and rules. Instead of regretting, OP should be happy that she is no more in a toxic relationship. OP did nothing wrong by breaking up with her boyfriend, and she is not an AH, and I would rate her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's boyfriend, he is big AH, and I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from necessary_public 3933. AITA for inviting a family member to holiday plans knowing they likely can't come due to chemo and radiation treatments. I'm at a loss. I'm tired, sad, and family sucks sometimes. So today has been a rough one. Holidays are supposed to be a fun day to get together with family, and I was all over for trying to make plans for a late Thanksgiving, early Christmas in December. A family member with cancer is living with my aunt, uncle, and their children. They were recently diagnosed with cancer 2 months ago. A couple months ago, before we were aware of the cancer diagnosis, we made plans to have a big family holiday in the middle of December. All of us kids now are married and have families of our own, and this day was going to work for all of us this year. 2 weeks ago, my aunt reached out and said we're postponing family Christmas until our family members' treatments are over. So, we were planning on having it early January. Last weekend, I visited my immediate family and my dad decided he still wanted to have something on the original date planned. Since my husband and I live 2 hours from them and we still had that day open, we thought it would work. My dad was hospitalized a couple months ago and has been in recovery, and this would be the first year in a couple years we've had a holiday at his home, and he loves nothing more than to cook our great-grandma's holiday meal for everyone. I extended the invite to my cousin and her family, as well as reaching out to my aunt and uncle to invite them today. The whole thing backfired. My sick family member was devastated, and my aunt made me feel terrible for even trying to plan a second family holiday without them. However, they were invited knowing they may not come since our family member is in treatment and susceptible right now. I figured inviting them and including them would be better than planning something and not inviting them. I figured it would have been way worse and insensitive as hell to do it behind their back. Duh. My aunt sent some nasty text to me after I cordially invited them, told me I ruined Thanksgiving, and I felt horrible all day about it. Not to mention, I didn't see any of my family today, and I won't see them on Christmas this year. So, spending time with my family on the 15th was a huge deal. I'm now My sick family member sent a nasty text to my dad, and then my stepmom told my grandma about it, and everyone is upset, and all of us are really hurt. The family member with cancer, sick family member mentioned above, was cussing, screaming, and saying they're just going to return all of our gifts, and they want to cancel the big family holiday in January. First of all, this pissed me off hearing it from my aunt. We don't ask for gifts. Take them all back if you want to, but this kind of behavior doesn't make me want to see them at all. I know how horrible cancer is, how hard it can be. I haven't lived it, but I know it's hell. I'm sure they feel left out, scared, and unsure. But to think the whole world has to stop turning because they can't see friends and family right now is nobody's fault. It's a little selfish. Cancer is horrible. We've lost 2 very dear family members to it. I didn't see my grandma in about a year when her husband had cancer. I didn't see her at Thanksgiving or Christmas last year when her husband was in treatment, and almost didn't see them at my wedding this year. However, life doesn't stop for everyone else. We're going to keep doing things and spending time we have together. My family went through something terrible leading up to my dad's hospital stay. So this year, spending it with him and all of us getting together was priority number 1. My sick family member has been telling us for weeks that they're feeling great and things are fine, while today during this blow-up, I hear completely otherwise, and my aunt completely unloaded on me how horrible things currently are in their household. Meanwhile, we're checking in once a week to see how things are, and they're lying and saying they're fine. She made me feel awful because nobody else is helping, but they're not asking for help. AITA for trying to get my family together anyway? I feel like LOL. OP is not an AH for keeping the family connected. OP's efforts to keep the family connected are 100% justified. OP's aunt is an AH for being harsh and blaming OP. She should discuss her concerns calmly instead of overreacting. So, I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 and OP gets a 0. Let's now move on to the next story from important-average-97. AITA for feeling like I want to give up on my marriage? I, 31M, have been married to my wife, 25F, for almost a year now. We've been together for nearly 5 years and living together for 3, but I'm starting to wonder if divorce might be the best option. Our relationship has always had its ups and downs, but we worked through them. During the earlier years, I went through a lot with my failed startups, COVID and other factors, my business ventures. I worked my ass off, especially when I was running a restaurant and bar. But despite all my effort, the business failed. To her credit, my wife was incredibly supportive during those times. She helped wherever she could, encouraged me, and even used her family connections to help. For context, she comes from a wealthy family and never really had to worry about money, while I grew up in a comfortable but modest single-parent household. After my restaurant failed, her family suggested a new business opportunity for me. It was a game changer. For the first time in my life, I was making good money. Life felt great. We traveled, shopped, and enjoyed our expensive tastes. I felt like I could finally relax a bit. But after about a year and a half, the economy tanked and business slowed down. Thankfully, I had saved up around $300K, but my wife started talking about wanting to get married, have kids, and plan for the future. I wasn't completely ready for that, but I loved her. She had been supportive and stuck by me during my rough times, so we got engaged and married 8 months later. The wedding wasn't her dream wedding, but she said she'd rather save the money for our honeymoon. We took a first-class trip to Europe, London, Paris, Rome, Amsterdam, and had the time of our lives, with a few minor arguments about me not taking her side, which has always been a thing. After we got back, she pushed me to find the next big thing, since our savings wouldn't last forever with our lifestyle and the idea of having kids. And I'll be honest, I got lazy. Making money with the last business was so easy that I struggled to figure out my next step. Whenever she asked what I was doing to provide for the family, my answer was always, I'm working on it, because I genuinely didn't know. A couple of months ago, her family decided to take their company public and wanted her to be the face of it. Her mom was all over her about taking the role, saying, since your husband isn't making money and you want kids soon, you should do this. The job requires her to travel constantly to another city. Her family promised that if she does this for 2 years, we'll be financially set for life. I hated the idea of her being away so much, but she accepted it because she felt like it was the only way forward. At first, it wasn't too bad. We texted and called a lot, and I missed her. But then she reconnected with her old college friends. Think Crazy Rich Asians levels of wealth. She started hanging out with them, and over time, her tone toward me changed. Suddenly, I was a deadbeat and only made money because of her family connections. She'd say things like, you're 31, you should be doing better by now, and compare me to her friends' boyfriends, who are younger and making more money. She also started saying things like, we didn't think things through before getting married. We have so many unresolved issues. When she came back, the arguments kept happening. I told her I was working on it. I'm studying for a real estate license, learning to code, and even taking a management course to improve my skills. She softened up a bit during her last trip, and we started talking more. But the tension is still there. Now that she's back, it feels like there's this wall between us. I've been retreating to the study room, focusing on myself and trying to rebuild, but I'm just exhausted. She's not wrong. I should be doing more. I'm 31, and I need to figure out a stable career instead of living off my savings and waiting for the next big break. But I'm so tired of her constant comparisons to her friends who've never had to work a day in their lives. Her words cut deep, and I feel drained. Lately, I've been drinking myself to sleep. Her words have cut deep, and I feel more depressed every day. To be honest, I don't want a divorce. I truly love her, and coming from a divorced family myself, I don't want something like that to happen to me. But I'm starting to feel like I can't handle much more of this. AITA? OP is not an AH for seeking a divorce from his wife. His wife is an AH for not supporting him during his downfall and comparing him to others. OP needed her support, but she kept on criticizing him. As for scores, I would rate OP's wife 2.5 out of 5. And OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from tasty_word_2747. AITA for laughing in my mother's face when she said my stepsister planned my 18th birthday. A little background. My mom and dad separated when I was 6, and each went their separate ways. Of course, they had joint custody of me, but they both started new families. When I was 9, my mom married a man, let's call him Robert, who already had a daughter, let's call her Kira, who was 2 years older than me. My dad got engaged when I was 8 to a wonderful woman, let's call her Layla, who he married when I was 12. My relationship with Layla is beautiful. She has truly been a mother to me. She basically helped my dad raise me. She takes an interest in my life, she comforts me, she advises me. We have common interests, and we do many activities together. She and I recently talked about the possibility of having her legally adopt me as soon as I come of age. Doing so now would be a bit messy legally because of my parents' joint custody. Because, for me, she is my real mother, and I want it to be official. My relationship with my bio mother, on the other hand, is almost non-existent. Even though I was forced to spend specific days with her, we never managed to bond, because she spent all her time giving attention and affection to Kira, who already have her own mother. Even when she tried to involve me in some activity, she always included Kira, and we had to do only what Kira liked. At a certain point, I started to decline her invitations and often asked if I could avoid going to her on the set days because I was almost always ignored or left aside, and I preferred to stay at home with my father and Layla. My father always tried to understand me, but he also had to honor the rules set by the judge. When I got more mature, he admitted that he was afraid that my mother might make some mean move in court if he agreed to not let me go to her on the appointed days. Yeah, this is something my mother would do. After knowing this, I understood my father's reasons, and I absolutely don't want to put him in trouble, so I didn't make such requests anymore, and I respected my schedule. Now let's get to the point. In 2 weeks, I will finally turn 18. I was lucky because my birthday falls on the days I have to stay with my dad, so he, Layla, and I started planning my birthday a month ago. It will be nothing too crazy, just a party with family and friends at my favorite pizza place. A casual night where I just want to have fun with the people I care about and do what I like. The place also has karaoke, and I love singing. Of course, after booking and setting everything up, we sent out the invitations, and this extended to my mother as well. Honestly, I didn't really want her there, but then I thought that this would actually be the last time I was forced to be involved with her, because once I turn 18, I won't be forced to follow the judge's rules anymore. So, we sent out the invitations 2 days ago, and we already had almost all the answers, so we could organize the precise number to send to the pizza place. The only thing missing was my mother, who saw the text and did not respond. I told my father that I would not insist, and if she did not respond, then it meant she did not want to come, and I was fine with that. I think my father was also a little relieved by the idea, even if he didn't say it openly, but I could see it on his face. Anyway, the drama started this afternoon. My mother called me, very angry, accusing me of being childish and that I shouldn't have planned anything without telling her first. This left me a little confused, and I reminded her that I always planned all my birthdays with Dad and Layla. Most of the time she didn't even remember, so complaining now was quite hypocritical. This made her even angrier and started attacking me because Kira had been crying ever since I sent the invitation to my mother, because she had already planned a whole birthday party for me. And I was really speechless, because the relationship between me and Kira is zero. She is the classic spoiled brat who always wants to be the center of attention, and my mother has always supported this behavior of hers, making it worse, and clearly she and I have never gotten along. I just didn't understand why the hell Kira wanted to organize a birthday party for me. It didn't make sense. I asked her why she did it, and especially why she did it without telling me. I mean, she didn't really think I wouldn't make any plans for my 18th birthday, right? It was ridiculous. My mother said it was supposed to be a surprise, and since I didn't tell her about my plans, she thought I didn't want to do anything for my birthday. And I mean, she could have asked? No. But here comes the worst part, and I admit, the one that made me lose my cool. My mother started listing all the things Kira had prepared for my party, maybe to rub in my face what I would have missed, and they were all Kira's favorite activities, things that I didn't like. She had booked a fish restaurant for launch, and I don't eat fish. Not because of some whim, but because it makes me feel sick. Just smelling fish makes me feel nauseous. I'm not allergic, I had it checked. My body simply rejects it. She also booked an afternoon activity at a ranch near the city, where my mother now lives, where you can ride horses, and, well, I don't like it. I have nothing against horses in particular, but the idea of riding one or getting really close to an animal that big scares me. Then she thought about going back to my mom's house for a backyard barbecue for dinner, and I just don't want to do that because I don't want to spend more time with my mom than I have to. My mother also said they had already sent out invitations to everyone, and at that point I was really speechless. But I had to ask her who she had sent them to, because my friends, my dad and his family hadn't received anything. It turns out that at the party was mostly invited to Robert's family, my mom's family, and Kira's friends. I mean, it was basically a party organized by Kira for herself. but under the pretext that it was for my birthday, so I didn't hold back anymore. I laughed in my mother's face and hung up the phone. It was all too ridiculous to be true, come on. My dad came to me a little while ago, saying that my mom called him mad because I laughed in her face when she told me about the party they had organized for me, and he was very upset about it. He was starting to say that, despite all the feelings I had for my mom, they were trying to do a nicer thing for once, but I stopped him right away and explained in details how the party had been organized, a detail that my mom apparently left out with him. His expression changed quickly. He just said, "I'm going to make a phone call," and I've been hearing him yelling at my mother for at least 20 minutes by now. Layla came to me after learning about the situation and said that as much as she could relate to me, I was a little rude to laugh in my mother's face and hang up without explaining. For her, I should have spoken out like an adult, despite my feelings, and sort things out in a civil and mature way. She wasn't angry, just a bit disappointed about how I acted. As soon as she left, I thought about my actions, and maybe I was a little hasty, but I don't think talking to my mom about it would have helped, honestly. But maybe I could have handled it better? I'm starting to think I was a bit of a in that moment. OP is not an AH for behaving rudely. Rather, his mother is an AH for not communicating with him properly and straining the relationship with her son. OP's reaction is reasonable, and I would rate him as 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's mom, I would rate her 2 out of 5. Let's now jump on to the next story from original_product_965. AITA for leaving a date and not paying for her food? I, 21M, recently went on a date with Steph, 21F. We met on Tinder and messaged for a couple days before Steph asked me out for a drink, which I agreed. We hadn't spoken too deeply, mostly about music and hobbies, but I figured it's better to meet in person and see if there's a vibe rather than text and potentially waste time. So we meet up and things are going okay at first, but got pretty hostile quickly. As I mentioned, Steph asked me out for a drink, and she picked the place. About 20 minutes after we got there, she started to complain about the place nonstop. She didn't like her drink, she didn't like the staff, she didn't like the decor. I asked if she wanted to go someplace else. Where we were, there's like a dozen other places within a 5-minute walk. She gave a big sigh and said, no, this was fine. I asked what made her pick this place. She said she'd been there before a few times. I thought it was really weird she was complaining about a place she picked, and she's been here before. She knew what to expect. I asked if the place had changed recently and she said no. Sort of a red flag, but I let it slide and we continued talking and things did get better. We connected on a few things and spoke for about an hour or so. I thought things had turned around basically. I asked at this point if she was hungry and she said yes. I said I knew a good sushi place just down the street if she wanted to go there. I suggested sushi because in her bio on Tinder, it mentioned she loves sushi, and we had texted about it earlier how we're both fans. She agreed she'd like that. I picked up the bill for the drinks and we went to the sushi place, and again, things were going well for about 20 minutes, and then her attitude changed. She asked me why I brought her here, to this restaurant. I didn't know what she meant. It wasn't rundown or cheap. It was a nicer sushi place, if anything. She explained she thought it was weird I brought her specifically to sushi because she's Asian. I said I suggested sushi because she had sushi her in bio, and we'd spoke about it as well. It was something I knew she liked. She insisted it was because she's Asian. I said to her, this isn't even the same kind of Asian you are. This is Japanese and you're Vietnamese. Those are two pretty distinctly different cultures. She then said it's still Asian, so it's the same thing. I said no, it's not. But she insisted it's Asian, so it's the same. At this point, I was pretty done with Steph. I thought I'd just finish the meal, leave, and wouldn't need to see her again. I was pretty quiet and she asked me about school. We hadn't really talked about it much, although I knew we're both in university. I said I'm doing my undergrad thesis now, as I'm in final year. She asked me about it and I said I'm basically doing interdisciplinary studies, focusing on philosophy, law, and mixing some technology in there, as I'm writing about one's self online and the legality of online identity. She began to laugh and said she never heard the word interdisciplinary before. I must have made that up to sound smart or something. I pretty much ignored the insult and said she can just Google it if she's not sure what it is. She kept giggling about how I made up a word. She said she was getting a real degree. I asked in what? She said literature. I snapped back at this point and said I was surprised she had such a weak vocabulary if she thinks I'm making up words and is a lit major. Yes, I probably shouldn't have been sassy like that, but I was so done with this girl at this point. She said again, at least she has a real degree, and asked what I'm going to do after graduating. I said, "Probably law school. I've already applied. I'm just waiting to hear back in the new year." She laughed and said I was wasting my time with more school. She had a job lined up at her dad's company doing HR or something like that. I can't remember what she said exactly. She started laughing about how I'm probably broke and will have a mountain of debt while she has a nice job lined up. At this point, I got up, went to the front, and paid my portion of the sushi and left. I didn't say I'm leaving. I didn't say anything to her. I just got up, paid, and left. About 5 minutes later, she texts me asking where I am. I text her saying I left. She starts blowing up my phone saying I'm rude and I left her there, and she doesn't have money to pay for the sushi. I said, "Not my problem. I thought I'm the broke one." She is calling me, texting me. I just block her number and go home. AITA for leaving her without a means to pay? Everyone sucks here. OP shows immature behavior by leaving the table without informing his girlfriend to be and just paying for himself. On the other hand, it is rude of OP's girlfriend to make jokes about his degree and trying to belittle him. So, in this case, both are AHs, and I would rate both OP and OP's girlfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from the Royal Glow. AITA for wanting to disinvite my fiancé's childhood girl best friend from attending our wedding for drunkenly confessing her love for him at my bachelorette party. I, 23F, and my fiancé Elijah, 28M, are due to get married at the end of next month at our destination wedding. Last night was my bachelorette party, and I invited my closest family and friends to come along with a few of my fiancé's family and his friend Kami, 27F. For some backstory, I and my fiancé met when I was 19 years old. Both of our fathers are business partners and have been friends since I was in high school. One night, his family invited mine over for a party being held at their home, and that was the first time we met. I was attracted to him, but I knew he was older, so I didn't believe I had a chance. As the night progressed, he was hanging outside in his backyard alone smoking, and my sister dared me to go talk to him. So I did, and a year later we began a relationship. My fiancé and Kami have been friends since they were kids, and their families are very close. She's always been extremely nice towards me, and wanted to be best friends from the first time we met. I found it a bit odd, only because she barely knew me, but I didn't think much of it, because she had been dating my fiancé's best friend, Antonio, 28M. We didn't become best friends because I already have a close friend group, and I don't trust easily, but she's always been cool and never crossed any boundaries. Last summer, my fiancé proposed to me on a trip to Belize. When the announcement was made, everyone sent their congratulatory praises to us, but Kami. She sent a text the next day, to my fiancé, only not our friend group chat, saying she was happy for him. She was a bit standoffish to me since then, but again, I never paid attention, really became, I have my own friends and life. About 6 months ago, Antonio and Kami broke up, but never really stated the reason why, just that they want to go back to being friends and be happy with other people. Fast forward to last night, my bachelorette was in a suite at a popular hotel here in Miami, where I live, planned by my older sister and Eli's sister Ava, 26F. The night was amazing, and I truly had the time of my life. We all were getting wasted, and I decided to go to the bathroom, and when I got closer, I heard voices and whimpering like someone was crying. It was then I heard Kami telling Ava that this should be her, and that she doesn't understand why he would want to be with someone like me, when it was always supposed to be them two together, that she always loved him. I sobered the hell up instantly. I might have to do a part 2. But guys, tell me, would I be the asshole for disinviting her from my wedding when it's a month away? Update. After I heard what was said, the old me started to revert back and I almost caused a scene. But I knew with my siblings, cousins, and friends all being there it would get out of control, and I still wanted to enjoy my night. But I did continue to listen. Some of you were wondering what Ava had to say about all of this. After Ava was able to calm Kami down, she explained to her that this was not the time and place, and that Elijah would never forgive her if she ruined my bachelorette party. She also told her that she thinks that she should leave and get herself together. I was about to walk in now. At the same time they were walking out, I acted as if I didn't hear anything and asked if everything was okay. Kami just wiped her face looking down, stating that she wasn't feeling well and that she might have to cut the night short. I honestly didn't fight her on it and even walked her ass to the door because TF? After she left, I pulled Ava to the side, telling her that I heard everything. She apologized that I heard it, and said that she would reach out to Eli to handle it, but I said no. Some of you also wanted to know why Kami said, "It should have been her." Did her and my ex have something going on before? I knew they hadn't, but needed to be sure. So, I asked if they had ever been together or dated. In response, Ava said not that she was aware of, only that their moms would always joke around when they were teens, saying that they could finally be related once Eli and Kami get married. She said that never happened, because Eli was never into her. Kami is a gorgeous girl, but my fiancé does have a certain type, and it's not her. Respectfully, I wanted to ask more questions, but I thought I'd wait until I spoke with my fiancé for further answers. After that, I continued the party and even spoke with Eli quickly before bed. I posted on Reddit the next day after I had gotten home before I did anything drastic. My fiancé came home later that evening, and once he settled in and relaxed, I told him everything that happened. To say that he was irate is taking it lightly. He was absolutely furious. I asked if there was ever anything between them that I was never told about. I asked if they had ever been intimate, and if she had ever confused her love for him before. He made it clear that there has never been anything but a friend's relationship in his eyes. He said that they had never had this before but did kiss once back in high school, playing bottle games with alcohol, but it was in a group and everyone kissed multiple people including Antonio. He said that she has never confessed her love for him, and is confused because he's the one that played a role in Antonio and her dating. He wanted to call her right then and there, but I told him to calm down first, because being upset would only make things worse. I want to say that my fiancé isn't mad that I heard it, or is trying to hide anything. He's upset because he feels hurt, and betrayed that she would do this to him and at my party, when we were all there to support me. My fiancé can get really protective of me at times. He doesn't like to hear anything negative. I did express to him that I feel uncomfortable with her going to our wedding now. I want people at our wedding who are genuinely happy and supportive of us. Tonight, he texted her saying that he needs to speak with her. She replied saying she will let him know when she's home. So, we will see how tonight's conversation goes. He also invited Antonio over for dinner, and will speak to him about what's going on because things feel off. A lot of you were also questioning hers and Antonio relationship and if she used him to make Eli jealous. So, we will all be present when the conversation does happen, to see what she has to say for herself. Since Thanksgiving is in a few days, I will update you guys on how the conversation goes and if anything new comes to light. Just give me some time to get through this holiday. Also, I have a wedding dress fitting tomorrow. I'm so excited. I might make a collage and show you guys my reference photos. XOXO, happy holidays. OP is not an AH for uninviting her fiancé's friend Kami. Her behavior is inappropriate. Despite knowing about OP's wedding, she confesses her feelings for OP's fiancé. It cannot be justified. So, I would rate Kami 3.5 out of 5 and OP gets a 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries?